All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first 365 deep dive of 2026. How's it going, Andy?
Going well, man. Going well.
Yeah,
Busy these days. How are you?
dude, same. It's been a busy week. I'm taking off next week, so a lot of it kind of got condensed down into this week. But hopefully, you guys are having a pretty good New Year so far. It has been a heck of a month. I mean, it's felt like way more than just 1 month already. But it's safe to say that we're well into 2026 at this point. Hopefully everybody can see us. I've got like LinkedIn open on my other screen and it still just says that it's starting soon. So I'm not quite
It's
sure what's
weird.
going on there. Let me let me reopen it and see if maybe hopefully it works. It just says pre-live still. So whatever. We got a few people on YouTube though. If you want to let us know, where you're watching from, or how things are going for you. Um, we've got a little bit of a different show today. We were planning on earlier this month. We were thinking, well, it'd be kind of fun to talk about Claude in Copilot and all the Anthropic models. And we just kind of felt about a week or two ago that like it's not quite rolled out enough yet for us to talk about the entirety of it. However, Andy, you have been posting since the beginning of the year. You've been posting every day some type of Copilot like daily tip.
Yeah.
So what we thought is let's pivot. Let's I guess what's the analogy here? We've got a golden goose laying what 29 or 30 eggs at this point. Why don't we go through every one of your tips for January and do a live demo of it, right? Like let's look at the tip and let's, go through it live to kind of show all these little snippets of like daily tips and tricks that you could, incorporate into your workflow to kind of get a little boost. So some of these, are probably things that, oh, this is beneath me, or I've already used that for a long time, but some of these hopefully will be, some nuggets that you haven't used before. I know I'm going to learn a few things in this
Yeah,
process, but
absolutely.
yeah,
Um,
Andy, you've done like what 30 of them because you posted today already, didn't you?
yeah, yeah. So I'm up to 30
Nice.
right now, and I've got a bunch more in the queue. A very ambitious goal is to see how many consecutive days that I can keep this up. I'm not doing them live every day. I'm scheduling these in
Yeah.
batches, and I'm trying to put them together in a sequential order and a workflow. But what I'm also
Mhm.
trying to do is get away from the how and start to get into some of the why and the when. Really connecting some of these tips and tricks to a purpose and like real
Mhm.
application, and like hopefully you can walk away with something. Seeing some pretty good traction on it so far. But I'll be honest, like the idea actually came because of Reddit. I've got a 400
Mhm.
plus day streak going on Reddit, and I was like, oh, I should probably do this for,
Really?
something productive other than just interacting with Reddit posts. So I was like, let me see what I can do here. So I've been putting them together for a little while now. I like the flow. It's going pretty well. I think the only thing I'm worried about is, am I going to be able to keep up content wise? Like, how many tips can we give for
Yeah.
Copilot, for day to day and activities? So
Mhm.
we'll see. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah. Speaking of Reddit, I was thinking a future fun episode would be I saved a thread back in like November that somebody was like, "Hey, post your like little known Microsoft Teams tip," and it was in r/Microsoft Teams, and it has like dozens, like a couple dozen little tips and tricks. Number one is like how to close and how to quit Teams. Um, but I was thinking like about going through each one of those in a video and being like, "Hey, here's like a plethora of tips. You could do this in Teams, you could do that in Teams." I was thinking about like showing how to do each of those things and just kind of make it into like some kind of big anthology,
Yeah.
so kind of along those lines. But I'm going to bring up my screen real quick, and this is Andy's LinkedIn. So if you go and find Andy on LinkedIn, he is under William Honeycutt, which is his real first name. And if you connect with him, you'll be getting these daily tips. So I just went to your profile, Andy, and went to your posts, and I thought we could start down at the bottom and we could just scroll up and go one by one. Because these ones, like you've got a static screenshot showing, the feature or showing the
Yeah.
tip, but we could kind of tell a little story behind it and just go one through 30 until we get to the top and just call that a show. So I think that could be a lot of fun. Oh, there you go. He just posted his link. So he's LinkedIn /IN and then William Honeycutt, all one word. And that's HUNEYCUTT. Cool. Okay, so I guess without further ado here, if you want to jump into this, Andy, I'm just going to highlight the first one. So the first one's very basic, but it's letting people know what context IQ is. And a lot of people, like we've talked about this being like the add work content button or the plus button. Technically, the feature is called context IQ, and it's adding context to your prompt. So this is like, bringing in a specific file or a meeting or a Teams chat or what have you from like your work world. And this has kind of changed over the past little bit where it started out, and I think the plus button wasn't actually built into the text box. It was like underneath it, and then it kind of moved into the text box and everything. But to show just where this is, and then I think your first couple tips are what is inside of context IQ.
Yeah.
But if you don't know how to go to Copilot chat, you're going to want to go to m365.cloud.microsoft, and then that will take you to the new Copilot on the web, which the top thing is a new chat. Context IQ, when we talk about that in the first couple tips, is going to be this plus button where it says add content, and then this work content. This brings up kind of a little window that has like these tabs across the top, and I won't steal the thunder too bad, but these tabs, this window is called context IQ. So this is your work information, your work intelligence, bringing that in and saying, "Oh, I want this specific meeting or that specific person," and it kind of narrows down the search when you're doing Copilot. Anything to add to that one?
No, you've pretty much nailed that one. I think the
Sure.
maybe the big takeaway though is the verbiage that Microsoft's using there. That's not um,
Mhm.
it's not like shown in the UI or anything like that. That it is context IQ. When you
Mhm.
really think about the name, it makes a whole lot of sense. And I think that's a relatively recent update that Microsoft made to like what they've been calling that menu. But you're adding work content to the
Mhm.
conversation, so it is contextually aware and intelligent with that work. So the name like really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But that one jumped out at me like months ago. It's like, oh, that's an interesting way to refer
Mhm.
to that. So it's context IQ when you're going and adding content into the conversation.
Yeah, it might seem weird that we're kind of like just talking about the word. The reason why I try to get people to call things by their proper name is because when you go to the roadmap, if you want to stay up to date with this stuff, you need to know what it's called so you can search for it. And the reason why we want people to understand that name is because if you're wondering like, when am I going to be able to get like Teams channels, when am I going to be able to add these other things to Copilot, you need to know that you're going to search by the word context IQ. And you can see here that in March, they're going to be adding Microsoft lists to that. Teams channels, that's rolling out right now. So you want to understand, what the proper noun is for these things so you can find them, or if it comes through the message center and you're an administrator, you know what the heck they're talking about, right? So that would be tip number one is you can just click the plus button. Now you can add something to your prompt to, make it a little bit more relevant. And then tip number two right here is one of those things that you can do. So you can reference people within the context IQ. So if I go into that chat and I've got the plus button, I've added work context, the first tab that we want to talk about is adding like a person. So I could say like, what's the latest with Andy? And I could type just what's the latest with Andy, and Copilot would have to go search like, through the directory. It would look through the Microsoft graph and say like, okay, who's all the Andys that John works with? Well, maybe I work regularly with like 3 different Andys. I actually have you, Andy, and then an Andy Schneider that I work with. And it's like I go talk to my wife, like, oh, I got a meeting with Andy today, or I gotta, I gotta get back after lunch to have a meeting with Andy. And she doesn't know which one, right? Like what Andy are you talking about? Um, it could be the same thing with Copilot, right? If you say, what's the latest with Andy, it might pick the wrong Andy. So instead, what you can do is, what's the latest with, then we're going to add work content. We're going to have people. I can select Andy Huneycutt and hit go. Now I have grounded it, or I've pointed Copilot to look at a specific person. And this works for anything like, hey, what's the latest with Andy? What meetings do I have coming up with Andy? What was the thing that I promised last week in a meeting to Andy? It'll like find Andy, it'll find the meetings we had together. And if we have the meeting notes, which we're going to talk about here in a moment, then it will find the thing that I promised and say, oh, it was this thing. Why haven't you done that yet? So it's really helpful to be able to like, select a person.
You're narrowing down Copilot's focus, because Copilot will pull everything related to Andy. And one of the tips for prompting is provide a source: goal, context, source, and expectations. We're giving it a source. That's the thing we want it to ground the conversation in. Now we've got it focused on that conversation, that topic. And we'll go into the next couple of tips for context IQ and explore that a little further.
Is this a future tip? I hope not, but a shortcut to do that plus button, click the /. That's the one that looks like it's falling forward. That's how I know it's a /. That's how you bring up the keyboard shortcut to bring up this context IQ. You might think like, oh, in Microsoft Teams, in other platforms, I would @mention a person. That's not how it works in Copilot. You @mention agents. You use a / to reference someone or reference something. So it's the / if you don't want to have to do 2 extra mouse clicks. Okay, so I think that's enough for number 2. Let's go into number 3, which is another thing on that tabs across the top of context IQ, referencing meetings. And this is also where we're going to talk a little bit about facilitator. So similar to, what's the latest with Andy? I could say like, what were my action items from? Then again, I could use that /, brings up the IQ window. And instead of people, now I'm going to click meetings, right? And I can see there's our Copilot content meeting. This is a meeting that Andy and I have every week, basically, to talk about, hey, planning for this show or planning for our conferences that we're going to be speaking at, things like that. I can say, give me the last like 3 instances, right? We meet weekly. What's happened in the last 3 weeks and what were my action items? It's going to be interesting to see what comes up, because I'm a little bit nervous about that. What we talk about these days. But without a safety net, right? Demoing without a safety net. And another quick tip, if that's taking too long, I can click get a quick answer. And like, I don't want to watch paint dry right now, so let's just get a quick answer here. There we go. Here we go. I found 5 instances. And here's these like, oh, I need to start a new Copilot notebook because we were doing a webinar and it was about notebooks, right? So, hey, did you do that or not? Create a deck outline, generate the slides, stuff like that. So that's just an example of referencing meetings. And even if it's a recurring meeting, you can say, hey, give them everything in the last month or whatever you want to. So anything to add to that, Andy? Or
yeah,
you want us
let
to
me jump into the
tip?
screen share here.
Yeah. Let's switch to your scene. Then you can take over the screen. I want to make sure we cover this quick win.
Yeah.
While we're at it too. All right. Andy shared his screen. There we go.
All right. So just taking a look at this, that meeting recap, I really like to explain this to the teammates that I work with. So this is the meeting that I'm interested in. This is what I want to go and pull information from. But what are you actually pulling from there? What are the
Hmm.
signals? What's the content that it can pull from? So it's actually going to Teams and take a look at that. So we've got a Teams meeting on the books. So it's a weekly kind of planning meeting from John. So I open that up, and right away, the name of the meeting, the participants is going to be available as part of the context there. Then you scroll
Hmm.
down, and what you're going to see down here is the actual invite. Now, my team has a rule: no agenda, no attenda, but I know what John and I are talking about each week. So I'm going to be able to participate in that meeting and show up. But that meeting invite is one source of information for this meeting. Now, we continue to scroll on down, we get notes. So if we're using Copilot notes or Teams meeting notes, we can set that up ahead of time. We can access it while the meeting's in progress collaboratively, and then we can get to the notes after the fact. So the invite's one, the notes are number two, but you might not be keeping your notes here. You might be keeping those in OneNote or another note taking app. So there might be a little bit of a addition to the prompt that you need to go and seek out in order to bring your meeting notes in.
Hmm.
Now, on top of that, so we'll pretend like we got the original agenda up here, the notes down here. Not all meetings take place in the actual meeting and what's being shared on the screen. A lot of things happen in the chat along the side of that particular meeting. So chat
Hmm.
accessible before, during, and after the meeting, depending on your settings. Cobot's going to be able to bring back part of the conversation that happened in the meeting chat as well. And then lastly, and we don't have it on this particular invite, but there are sometimes files that are shared as part of that meeting. Maybe here's a pre-read, here's a PowerPoint to go over ahead of time, or we get in the meeting and we share a PowerPoint or an Excel file. So that becomes part of the content that is associated with that meeting. And then you get into things like, is there a recording and or a transcription? Is that going to be available? Or did we use that for the meeting? And then lastly, and this one that I think is really overlooked, is this part of a series? Are there other meetings that have agendas and notes and files and chat and transcription? Does this happen in like a sequence? Now, all of that being said, for the recurring meetings, you might have a retention schedule. So you might have a 30-day retention schedule for meeting chat. You might have a 30-day retention schedule for recording and or transcription. So some of those components are not always going to be available. But from those 6 things, when you go and you tell Copilot, okay, let's recap this meeting, look for key items, takeaways,
Hmm.
action items, so forth and so on, it's looking for all of those things.
Extends out to everything that's associated with the
Yes.
meeting. And you'll notice that
And
when you go into the recap, you'll see all those like little items that get pulled in.
exactly. So it'll also, in some cases, maybe even extend out to some email conversations that you might have had before you actually scheduled a meeting and sent that out.
Hmm.
But really, there's those 6 things that it's going to look for to go back and pull from that meeting based content. Now, John just mentioned this, the recap. Well, the recap typically shows up with a meeting. So like we go back to maybe a previous instance of like one of our meetings. We've been so busy lately. I don't know which one we go into. So like there's a recap. You would click
Hmm.
on that and it would show you things from that meeting. It would show you maybe an AI summary. It would show you a recording and a transcription. It would show you Andy in a fancy shirt and John in his collection of t-shirts. It would show you the files that we've shared like along the way. And so you see all of this as like part of the recap, and that gives you really an idea of what it's able to actually go and pull from. But the side tip that I have for all of you here is, rather than going back through the calendar, and believe me, this is not my work calendar. My work calendar has like overlapping events like this in every
Yeah,
single
mine's
block.
a
It's
mess.
ridiculous. I'm not going to scroll through all of that. What I want you all to do is I want you to go and look for the Meet app in Microsoft. So if you look on the left-hand side of Microsoft Teams, there's an option. You might find it under the meatball menu, the dot dot dot. Search for the Meet app, and that's this guy that I have pinned in the left-hand navigation. Right click and you can pin and you can unpin it. But what I love about the Meet app is it shows me, okay, here's what's coming up, direct links to it, quick access to notes and some other items related to that meeting. So it's there, it's nice and easy. I can even get to the chat. I don't have to go through my block of calendar and days and views to find it. Then it shows me recent. What have we talked about recently? What meetings have I participated in? And this is a 30-day window, a 30-day snapshot for me to go back. But here's what's really valuable about it. Who sent me the meeting? What are the components that are available? Notes, files, quick access to the chat, quick access to the recap over here. Is it part of a series? And that really highlights all of those things that are available. And then with the recent section, you're also able to take advantage of things like the filter pills. So you can find meetings that were recorded. You can find meetings that have content. You can find meetings that have all. I'm actually seeing even more filter pills than this in my work environment. And if you need to, you do have the ability to do keyword searches right over here and really drill down through it. But I love the Meet app for that because it just cuts through the clutter of my mailbox or cuts through the clutter of my calendar to get me to those things. And then if I really need to do like the deep dive into that meeting, I can go back and I can say, okay, let's look at the meetings tab and reference, this past meeting and get caught up. But here's my other sidebar tip for this particular one. It's not always about looking backwards. You need to look forward as well. So when you're in here, you can tell Copilot, help me to prepare for this upcoming meeting. What am I responsible for? What tasks do I need to make sure that are completed before we get into this meeting? And now I can use it to look forward and to offload some of that prep work that I might have to do, or to jog my memory as I'm going from back-to-back meetings. And, I've got a condensed amount of time to go and find this. Well, now I've just let Copilot go and do all that work for me. So it really does go either forward recapping or future prepping.
Yeah. So one thing that I want to show before we move on to the next is that facilitator while your prompt is running. Andy mentioned that that you've got these recap with the notes and everything. And one of the features that I like the best is his like little quick tip that he's got here, which is to use the facilitator agent. And you can turn that on in the meeting, but I like to enable it before the meeting starts. If you're an organizer of a meeting, like if I go over here to my Microsoft Teams and I go into my calendar, I'll schedule something for like 6 p.m. tonight. Test. Then as soon as I add a Teams meeting to this meeting here, I can do this in Outlook or I could do it inside of Microsoft Teams, but you'll open up the options for that meeting, go to Copilot, and then turn on Facilitator. And then not only will you get the regular recap, but you'll proactively get notes as you're in the meeting. So it's just another one of those artifacts that you can have that gives you even more context within that context IQ whenever you reference a specific meeting. I'll go ahead and discard that so I don't get a reminder at 6 o'clock tonight, because that could be annoying. Anything else to add on this one, or you want to go on to the next tip?
We're going to circle back to some of this one, but
Yeah.
tip number 3 was like multifaceted. I probably should have broke that out into a bunch of sub tips as well, but I was on a roll.
No worries. I did want to grab a question real quick from Charlotte, and I work with Charlotte. She was asking us questions in a webinar that we had at work earlier this week. So it's awesome that you're watching us today. But she was asking, like, can Context IQ, can you get to like specific web resources or specific tools? And the answer is, whenever you go to like the plus button, unfortunately it's just work content, uploading files or attaching files. So you're not, referencing specific websites in here. Instead, what you would do is just put the web URL in the prompt itself. So if it's like, cnn.com/whatever, if you got a specific article, you could slap the URL into that article right there. There is an other tab though that will show some other things like Viva Engage, and that's getting more and more going to show like connectors and things like that at the enterprise level. If you've got like Jira or ServiceNow something like that, that will end up rolling up into that other category. But at this time, you can't specifically select a particular enterprise connector and then scope it to that as like a web tool. So cool. All right. So let's see here. The next one is about referencing Teams content. And this is kind of new. There was Microsoft Teams chats. Now there's also channels, I've noticed. And I do not have this in my work environment yet, but I see it in our MVP tenant. And that is going to work content. Not only could I get my meetings, but I can get my Teams chats. So there's like a bunch of Teams chats if I want to like hone in on this one with Mark Cashman, or if I want to find like a chat with like Joe end user or something like that. But the new thing I'm not seeing in my work tenant yet is channels. You can also hone in on channels. So if I want to look at just like the marketing campaigns for Jolly Roger Java, I can zoom in on that if I want to. I don't know. Have you seen channels in your corporate environment yet?
I have. I have.
You have? Nice. I
Yes.
knew it was like rolling out, I think starting in December, but for some reason it hasn't hit our tenant yet. Um, anything else that you want to do that you want to explain here? The quick win for this one is, hey, catch up on whatever specific channel for today. If you got like super like active channels that are really crazy, you can kind of say, hey, just give me a summary of what happened in this one for today. And you don't have to go into Teams to do that specifically.
So what I'm noticing with the channel right now is that it does tend to show some channels that you are most recently active in, but it seems like it's focusing in on just the most recent communication or post inside of that channel. So it's not really showing more than the first thing in there. I feel like it's early days on that, and so there's probably some more work to do. I did notice though, it rolled out in my production tenant a few weeks ago. I've seen it in our demo tenant for a little while now, but for the longest time, every time I clicked on it, it just wouldn't load anything. There would be like an error in there, and so I wouldn't be able to actually pull anything. But over the last week or so, it started to return at least the first or most recent post inside of the channel. And I think the benefit is I don't have to leave Copilot chat. So like maybe I'm doing another part of the conversation and then I'm like, oh, what's the latest from the tips and tricks channel? And I can go and just pull that and stay in the flow of the conversation without having to switch my workload.
It's about not switching context. And
Yeah.
with Teams, if you're going to go into like what's new in this channel, you can do that if you're in Teams and you're in the channel. But if you're in chat, think of how many clicks that is to switch to the other app, go into the channel, go click the Copilot button for the channel, then ask for a summary. Like it kind of just takes you off track. Where if you're, kind of doing like your daily debrief or something, you just pop that into the chat and say, hey, catch me up on this channel. It's pretty handy. Okay. Tip number 5 is referencing emails. This is another one of those tabs, and we'll kind of move quickly, I think, through these next ones. But rather than doing a Teams channel, I can also do an email, and you'll see these are the emails that are in my mailbox. It's really kind of not exciting because it's all just like automated system emails because I don't really use this email address very often, but I can say like, summarize this. And it's going to look at that specific email. And it's going to tell me that like one of our, recent weekly meetings expired. Great. It basically just read the email out to me. But that's kind of interesting. It referenced that specific email. If I want to keep asking more about that, I can just click the ask button and it will again give me some of those prompt ideas like summarize this, draft a response, something like that. So that's a kind of a nice little, you're getting these like adaptive cards kind of showing up these days within your chat to say like, what is that email? Click on it. It will open up in the web version of Outlook for you. So you can see the actual email if you want to.
Hover to discover and then click to dive in.
Yep.
Got to come up with a catchy rhyme for that second part.
I like that. Yeah, that's good. Next one, referencing files. This is the one thing I do the most, right? I'm like, hey, like summarize this file or that file. One thing that I do a lot is like compare this file. So I can select a specific file and say, uh, compare this one to, and then I could have another file that I bring up, family meal planning. This is going to be like really weird because they're not about each other at all. But I can compare two files if I want to by referencing this one and that one, and it'll give me a comparison of two. And it's gonna be like, dude, I don't know what are you talking about because they're completely different. Both of them have a summary.
I'll tell you what I really like about the referencing files, and since you're
Mhm.
driving, if you just want to go back to the context IQ menu,
Yeah, sure.
what I really like about it is the new filters at the top, the
Yeah,
people and the type. I think that's just
that's cool.
really handy. And what I'm encouraging people that I work with to do is if you know it's a Word document, filter it by word. Don't sift through all of the loop documents and Copilot pages and Excel files and whatnot.
Mhm.
Narrow it down to the file type that you're looking for. And then the second big tip that I have, even on this menu, is use the search box that's built into the Context IQ menu. So if you
Mhm.
know you're looking for a loop document or a Copilot page and you have an idea of what it's titled, go ahead and narrow it down,
Yep.
because even though it is powered by the graph and it does tend to emphasize recent and relevant, it doesn't always show what you've worked on most recently. It doesn't get
Mhm.
that latest thing. And occasionally a file's just new and it just doesn't show up yet. So you can kind of push it along or nudge it by going to the little search box there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea, and you'll notice that whenever I search for, like, M365 Conf, the conference coming up in Orlando in April, it I
Why
had a
why would you
filter.
mention that, John? Why would you mention the
Yeah,
Microsoft conference coming up in April? Do you know
'cause you should
anybody who's
sign
gonna
up
be
for it.
there?
Yeah, we're gonna be doing a workshop and a session there,
You and
but
I? We are?
we've been doing a lot of planning for it, and, I wanted to point out that, like, the filter and the search, they're combined, which is really nice.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, that's super handy. And if I wanted to show like certain people, again, this is kind of a lame demo because it's just me. But I could say like anything that is a PowerPoint that is from Tom, right? It will filter that down so I can kind of combine those and then do a search on top of it. Very handy in my world where I've got like tons of files from Tom, but they're about different topics. So like, okay, give me all the PowerPoints from Tom that have the word agents in them, right? I kind of filter it 3 ways.
The and this is a little feedback from Microsoft on that context IQ menu,
Mhm.
especially for files. If you could do like what you do in OneDrive, where you kind of give me an idea of where that file is coming from. Is this one in my OneDrive? Is it in a SharePoint site or associated with like a Microsoft team? Just that little bit of context can really help because sometimes it does return files with similar file names, and I'm not sure which one that I'm really looking for at that particular time. But that's just some feedback from my friends at Microsoft. And hey, maybe I'll see some of you in March in Redmond and give it to you in person.
Yeah. All right, cool. So the next one here, number 7, is referencing local files. So everything we've talked about so far has been M365 based, right? I go to work
Yeah.
content. I'm just linking to an existing file or a person or an email. It's already up in the Microsoft cloud. But what if I like downloaded a file and I want to reference that directly? Well, I could do it 2 ways. If I'm in Context IQ already, I could click the upload button right here, and that will open up a file browser on my computer. And then I could say, like, this is something I got from like the Power Cat stuff, like a YouTube webinar that happened. I could upload that PowerPoint if I wanted to, and then start asking about it. The other place is one level up from here. So if you click plus, you can also do upload images and files. That's right there, and I can grab that. I can hit open. And then what it's going to do is you see it says uploading to OneDrive, and it's putting it in a special folder on my OneDrive. And we're going to let this thing load up here. And it's almost there. But once that's done loading, now it is in my OneDrive. I can ask about it like any other file. And if I click manage uploads, it's going to open that location, and I want to show you what folder it's in. It's in your OneDrive called My Files, and then it creates a new folder called Microsoft Copilot chat files. That's where all of that stuff lands when you upload it. Anything to add to this one, Andy?
No, pretty straightforward, but
Yeah.
I do like to point out that's how you pull things from other source systems, things
Mhm.
outside of the Microsoft cloud. It's not always obvious, but it's
Yeah.
there. And then you do have an online
Yeah.
copy to look at.
And here's another tip. You're kind of like a quick win. You can
Mhm.
also drag and drop if you want to. So like if I go here and I'm like, wanting to mess with a file, I'm gonna, I've got my prompts going and I'm gonna add another prompt to it. I can always just click and drag something in. So like, oh, that's not the right type of file because it's a 3D print file. But you could drag and drop it into there and it'll do the same thing. It'll upload it to OneDrive and you can say, hey, what about this file? What about that file? Bad example because that's like a bamboo like 3D graphic or a 3D geometry file.
You're saying
But
Copilot doesn't
yeah.
know about 3D printing files?
It probably does know about STLs. No, it doesn't know about STLs. But the other one was like a proprietary like bamboo lab thing. That's for my
Yeah.
Koopa shell hitch cover that I made that I was showing you. My Mario Kart thing. All right. Tip number 8, SharePoint sites. Another one down on the list is you can search for specific pages, files, lists. All of that stuff was within a SharePoint site. So if I go back, click the plus, hit work content, this one kind of spills over into the more area, but you got sites right there. And you see there's not only an entire site, but there's like a specific page on a site. And it's just showing things that are most recent for me. So there's like some from Jolly Roger Java HR, that site. That's a page that we created about compensation for our fake coffee shop that we use for demos.
It's real to me, man.
Yeah, right.
Now, the devil is in the details with that one. So that was
Mhm.
tip number 8.
Number
I do
8,
want to
yeah.
call out just a couple of small things about that. So up to that's the quick win there. The 10 files or pages. That's
Mhm.
directly from Microsoft's documentation, and it implies that it's the 10 most recent files or pages, unless you point it to a specific page. Also, notice it does
Yeah.
not say list. It doesn't connect to Microsoft List or SharePoint List, depending on how long you've been in the
Yeah.
Microsoft system or space. But it does
That
limit
is
it to,
coming
yeah.
in March, though, so that'll be good.
I'm
But
surprised they put a year on that. I would say TBD, year to be
right.
determined.
That's a big miss, though, the lists, thing.
Yeah.
That'll be a big win when we get it.
But don't expect it to pull from several hundred files inside of your SharePoint site. If you have an idea of what the files are, you might need to navigate to those or maybe look at using an
Yeah.
agent for something like that. But it will pull up to 10 files or pages within the site.
Mhm. Cool. Okay, the next one is just kind of the other. It's the catch-all that I mentioned, and I don't
Mhm.
think I'll show this one because I already kind of talked about it. But when you go to that plus, you hit the other, you'll saw that what I had was a Viva Engage page because I have like a Viva Engage conversation in our tenant. That's one of the things that it can do. Also, if you've got some forms out there, the forms will show up, so you can say like, "Hey, what's the positivity or negativity in this form's responses?" You can click on that form in the other tab. It's kind of the catch-all for everything else that's not covered by one of the other like 6 or 7 tabs we talked about.
Yeah. I've definitely seen Viva Engage and Microsoft Forms show up in there.
Hmm.
I'm waiting for some other things to potentially show up. Like I'd like to see Whiteboard. I think that one would be very
That'd be nice.
helpful to surface through there. Um, but those are the two that I've seen just pretty consistently in testing.
Hmm. Cool. All right. Now you got some of your reposts. There's the number 10 is work versus web. This is a good one to kind of explain about. I get a lot of questions about this in my day job, which is what do I pick here at the top? Work versus web. For me, the explanation that I've given is work is kind of where I live most of the time. That has all of my Microsoft Graph context. So if I ask what's the latest with Andy, it's going to know who Andy is. It's going to know the files, emails we have going back and forth, all of that type of stuff. If I don't want to muddy the waters and I want to get like a pure external view of something, then I would use the web tab and say, hey, tell me about like smart home platforms or something like that, right? I don't want to know like what my company has to say about smart home platforms. I just want to do like a pure web search. That's what I use them for. I don't know. Do you have any other color to add to that?
I mean, I put in the title, the first decision you're making, and I think it really comes down to, am I repurposing something that
Mhm.
I already have? Am I looking for something that already exists? Or is this kind of a net new search for me, or a net new topic that I'm going to be looking at? And that really drives whether
Yeah.
I'm going to web for net new or whether I'm going to work for something that I might already have
Yeah.
internal. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, I get a ton of questions on that, and a lot of people are still trying to kind of understand when to choose web versus work. And we're going to explore a
Yeah.
couple of nuances of it as we go through in some of the next couple of tips that
Yeah.
follow off on it. But that whole process, just ask yourself, am I asking about my work or the world?
Mhm.
And that really helps you to determine web or work at the top.
And one thing I do want to call out too is that people get confused about this and they think if I'm using the work tab, then I'm
Oh,
not searching the web.
spoiler,
You still are, right? What was that?
spoiler.
Oh, spoiler. Yeah, you
Yep.
still are. So, I can still search for like who's in the Super Bowl this year and it will still work. Is that like your next tip?
It's coming up.
Okay. All right. I won't show it then. I'll show it later. But but yeah, the work mode again, this is context IQ. This is pointing out that when you're in context IQ, when you're in the work mode, you've got lots of options here, your files, your meetings, your people, stuff like that. When you're in the web version and then you click the plus, when you go there, you don't have all of those tabs available.
Just
So you
files.
can reference files only, but you can't reference people, you can't reference emails, meetings, and stuff like that. This is the equivalent of uploading and attaching a file. Instead of it skips that upload process and just attaches it if it already lives in OneDrive. Outside of that, you don't have any context IQ when you're in the web mode.
And
That's
I
a
do want
good
to I want
detail.
to extend on that one just a little bit
Yeah, go ahead.
for those colleagues that we have out there that don't have a full Copilot license. You don't have the work and web toggle. Essentially, what you have is the web version, and you're not going to
Mhm.
have context IQ, but you can manually upload a file even into the free version of Copilot, and have Copilot in the large language model reason against that document or a handful of documents. So that
Mhm.
capability is included with your typical Microsoft licensing, whether you've got like an E3 or an F3 or whatever, even like an A3 license. Um, so with the typical M365 license, that Copilot chat free experience still gives you some ability to reason with your
Yeah.
content safely and securely.
Yeah. All right. Next up, web mode with a different job, not a lesser one. So, web mode isn't a fallback, it's just different. It's designed for like research and learning and stuff like that. Um, Use the web mode when it doesn't when it you don't want your work stuff to come in. So like if you don't want it, like I mentioned, like I don't want work to kind of muddy the waters. I use the web mode for that. He's kind of got here work mode answers what's happening here. Web mode answers what's happening everywhere but here, out there in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And
And
as we'll see here in a minute, work mode is kind of all inclusive because it also incorporates the web if you want it to.
so web mode is where I go now instead of search. I
Instead of
barely,
like Googling something or Binging
yeah, I
something.
very
Yeah.
rarely go to Google these days. I start in
Mhm.
Copilot search. Just go to web and start like my search query. Like, what am I looking
Mhm.
for today? What am I? Because then it allows me to get conversational with it, and I can
Yeah.
stay kind of here, but I also have like a quick handoff. I could turn it into um, a Copilot page or a document pretty quickly, versus if I'm doing the traditional search query, I have to search, figure
Hmm.
out my keywords and my search syntax, and then I have to skim through the results and then click on a
Yeah.
few of them and browse and summarize real quick, and then hit back and append and repeat that process all over. When I go to web, I can very quickly start learning about something. I need to know what my options are for filtering based off of if an item is new or an item is created for Power Automate flow,
Hmm.
and how I can best handle identify when items are modified to update an existing item in another list.
Hmm.
I can say something like that into the web version and do like a very complex ask and get results that are in the ballpark of what I'm looking for a lot easier
Hmm.
than I can from a search engine.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yes,
This is kind of an example of that where I did that in Researcher. And
yeah,
again, you've got all of these like, hey, I was going to compare a couple of desks and you can see those web links are all throughout, but it's giving me that natural language like, hey, here's a table. So you don't have to like go hunt around and, try to stitch it together yourself.
and I just want to add one last thing to that. Like web mode is like my search engine. Because it does have enterprise data protection on it, I don't have to worry about if I'm searching for something maybe related to something sensitive in my business, maybe a
Hmm.
merger or acquisition or something like that. It's like I have data protection privacy from Microsoft in that
Yeah.
conversation, and it is looking at an indexed version of the Bing search engine, and so there's no like live like interaction or like live like search results. It's all indexed, so it does give me some peace of mind that I can use this in a private way versus like how much of my information is going to be retained by Google. And I'd also
Hmm.
want to just call out, I know somebody's going to say it in the comments, well, you can go to Google and you can use Gemini and AI results there as well. Yeah, but I don't have enterprise data protection. And
Yeah.
if I'm using
That's
this at
what the
work,
shield is in the upper corner here. If you click on that from Copilot, this is going to give you all the details of what Andy's talking about. And what's really nice right here, data privacy for web searches. This has Microsoft's commitment basically. And Andy, what you mentioned, like your organizational profile is not included. Your search that happens from Copilot is not used for ad targeting, any of that type of stuff. That's what that green shield ensures us whenever
yeah,
we're using Copilot. And it's even got some examples of like, hey, I was searching for like this thing. It goes and does a search, and here's like the scenario and kind of the data flow of what happens, right? But if I was searching about like, you know, um, a specific like person in here, like there's no relevant information, so it doesn't even do a web search, right?
yeah.
Because you're talking about a coworker and something at work, like it's not going to search for that. So it's pretty intelligent as when it searches or doesn't. Okay. Where
Lucky
are we
number
at here? Number
13.
13. What's that?
Lucky number 13.
Lucky 13. All right. So, web mode, how referencing works. So, when you're in web mode, Copilot intentionally limits, right? It can't bring up people or emails or Teams content, stuff like that. So in that web mode, what Andy showed, like you can use context IQ. It's only showing the files. It's the same as if you had dragged the file into the prompt. Instead, it's linking it so it doesn't have the upload step in it. So if you need to search for something that's like in a file still. It's important also to note that it's in your OneDrive. It stays in your OneDrive. That file does. It's not, you're not uploading it to some web facing version of the LLM that it's learning from or anything like that. It stays in your OneDrive in that, Microsoft Teams or Copilot chat files. That's where it's going to remain. Right. Um, so yeah. Okay. Up next, number 14, work mode with web search. So this is that question that I get a lot is if I'm using web, I'm getting external results. If I use work, am I giving up those external results? So I can say who is in the Super Bowl this year? And that is definitely not in Jolly Roger Java. So what do I get? it's not in my work area, so it's going to go ahead and do a web search. That's because work also includes web search by default. So it's the Patriots versus the Seahawks, and you can see it's coming from some web sources right there. And the reason that I get that is if I click on the dot dot dot, then I've got web search is turned on. It's turned on by default. So if you want to do a work related thing and you do not want to have web search happen, you can just turn it off right there. And then now it's only going to look at the work content within that. So that's an important thing to do that. And it does, give you a banner up at the top. You can click turn it on and it just like pops that open so you can flip the toggle back on.
And it stays off for the duration of this conversation. But as soon as you start a
Yeah.
new conversation, it goes back to its default on setting.
Yeah. So I'm going to click new chat. It just goes right back and it's on again. That's the default state. Okay. All right. So that was number 14. Number 15. And we're doing pretty good because we're like halfway through the 2 hours. So this is a little bit of something that Andy showed a second ago without calling attention to it, is you can dictate your prompt. So you can go in here and you can start a new chat, and all you got to do is click the microphone icon. This is the dictate feature. So it's just doing speech to text in it. If I click the wavelength right here, that's starting a voice chat. That's a two-way. It will respond back to me verbally. If I don't want that and I just want like a regular chat, but I don't want to type it, I can say, what's the latest with Andy Huneycutt? I want you to format the items by the date and what type of item it is and the relevance, and put all that into a table for me. So I just said that instead of having to type it. I need to do better about using this, Andy, because like I'll type, and when I'm typing, I then go back and like correct it, and I get all like weird about like my grammar and stuff. But sometimes I just need to get it out of my head. That's really good to use the microphone for that.
I can talk faster than I can type, and I don't have to worry about misspellings and grammar and things like that. So that's why
Yeah.
I love this one. This one's also great for demos, which I tend to do a lot of these days. And
Mhm.
so I can say out loud, hey, we can use it to do this. And like I can do it all at the same time. You're going to find the dictate feature shows up almost in all of the Copilot chat experiences. I've seen it in the Office
Yeah.
apps, I've seen it in Outlook, I've seen it here at Copilot Home. So it is following along
Mhm.
with us. Now I'll get another tip coming up in a minute about a
Yeah.
better way to like actually use dictate, but that's the first pass that I wanted to
Mhm.
showcase was all right, let's talk about like the dictation feature and like how to get started with it.
Yeah. And here in your quick win, you've got you can kind of verbalize your formatting. So if you want to say like new line, here's a new thought, and you like want another paragraph in your prompt, you can just say like new line, or stuff like that.
And
Um
resist the urge to correct yourself in like real time as it's like dictating. Finish your thought and just pause for a second, and it'll append and update the sentence
mhm.
with your intent, and correct maybe something that it got wrong along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, you saw that I was kinda umming and awing through it, and it captured one of the "uhs" in there. Oh, it went away 'cause I erased it. It
Here,
captured
you
one
can
of them,
bring.
but I said, like 4 times, and it just kinda discarded the ones, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but this is a good thing too, like, when you hit the microphone, it will stop dictating. The arrow is separate from that. So you can stop dictating and then go correct and fix the little, like, mess ups that you made, especially if they kind of might confuse the prompt, You can go in, make those little changes, then hit the arrow to send it off. That's a
Or
good point.
when you were prompting just a second ago and you said, "What's the latest from Andy?" You could go
Mhm.
back to the dictated prompt and then highlight Andy
Yeah,
forward slash and like ground it in the actual
yeah.
person.
See, here's this, like, I would take off the. Also, it said the word "the" like 3 times because 'cause I'm terrible. I didn't have in my mind what I wanted to do. The third thing here, that's spelled wrong, right? So I could fix that. Or better yet, I could select his name and instead I could do a forward slash and I could reference him instead. So, that's a little bit of that editorial side of things. Then you would click the send button. Okay. Tip number 16 here. Let's do the read aloud feature. So I'm
And
going
I'm
to go
happy
ahead
to
and
try
fire
this one.
off this one. Yeah, you
I've
want to
already got
demo this
one
one?
pulled up. Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I think we don't have to wait for me to do it.
All
Okay, so
right.
you've got a prompt that's already executed here.
Yes. So this is the one that I dictated earlier, and we've already got the output of this particular tip. So I'm going to just scroll
Mhm.
down. It's a lot. But that being said, when we get all the way to the bottom, we're going to look for my favorite menu, the meatball menu, and then you're going to see the read aloud option show up
Yeah.
from there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on read aloud.
Reason for 32s. I found 5 meetings related to Copilot content planning. The upcoming one is scheduled for Monday, 10 to 11 a.m., organized by John Moore, and your invite currently shows you have not yet RSVP'd. Copilot content planning. Copilot content planning.
Now, this is first pass. I'm sure Microsoft's going to update this as they tend to do, but it can read back the output of the conversation for you. This is, I think, an appended version of what they do in Edge, anyways, or Edge by default, which is an accessibility option, which is the read aloud
Mhm.
tool. They also include this in most of their Office products. You'll see it in Word, especially. So it's great to like read back the content. But in some of the experience, it actually follows along or highlights what it's actually reading. I think we would see that at some point so that you know where it is and what it's actually reading. It also started off with how long it reasoned for. So it literally just kind of did a web scrape of all the text that it had there, and it started to
Mhm.
read that. But I do have the ability now to have it read it back to me. And then once you have enabled that command once, then you can pause and play whenever you're ready. But you're going to do that from the menu down at the bottom. And that's going to allow you just a different modality to start interacting with that content. So you talk to it, and
Mhm.
like your kids, now Copilot's going to start talking back to you.
Yeah, and here's a good one from our buddy on YouTube. Here, there's a good question or a comment that he's speaking in Dutch, and that isn't optimal. So we're being very U.S. and English centric here, Paul. But yeah, you do want to recognize that, like, well, it might not be optimal for it's best for, like, US English, right? That's where, like, the majority of the team probably is doing this. I would say, though, in your instance, if you've got a language that it's kind of messed up with, or it's not doing exactly what you want, give it a thumbs down. We hear that from the Microsoft group occasionally, that, like, hey, if something isn't behaving correctly, give it a thumbs down. Like, so that's on Andy's screen. There's like a thumbs up and a thumbs down at the bottom, kind of where the read aloud area is. You could give it a thumbs down and be like, hey, this didn't understand me in Dutch. It messed up. It was like 50% good, not 100%, right? Um, but yeah, that's a good call out. If you speak other languages, it may not be quite as good as English. I only speak English, so I can't I can't verify that, unfortunately. Um, so Andy, since you have your screen up, I wanted to steal the screen, but you've got your, like, audio shared. So I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind going through the next two of these because they're about voice mode. Um, so the first one is that voice mode exists, right? And why don't we combine these two? So we talked about the microphone. Next, we're going to click the little lines, or the wavelength, if you will. That is going to be a voice chat. So you're speaking to Copilot, it's responding back to you verbally. And we're going to show how you can activate that, how you can mute it, so that it's not listening to you for a period of time. And then also the idea that this is really good for iteration, right? It's really good for hearing back something and then saying, "Oh yeah, I want to explore that idea," right? Or what about this? What about that? You're building on the conversation. So it's not, I'm just dictating and throwing a prompt at Copilot. I'm having a conversation with Copilot in that voice chat. You want me to bring your screen up, Andy? I see that you're muted if you meant to be muted. There we
All
go.
right. There we go. So I'm all set. So as John was pointing out, it's the sound waves, the sound diamond. I'm not sure exactly what to call that yet. I haven't found a food reference for it yet because that tends to be what I fall back on with the Microsoft UI. But I'm going to figure that one out. So this is the voice feature. Now I will point out I'm seeing this in Copilot on the web. So Copilot Home in the web. I have seen it start to show up in a couple of the desktop apps. So, for example, yesterday I saw it show up in the new Outlook desktop client. I was actually very surprised that it was showing up there. And I've seen it show up in the Outlook for Web app, but it's the newest iteration of that interface. I haven't seen it fully start to roll out in some of our other apps here in our demo tenant, but it's pretty consistent for Copilot Home, which is where I am. So we're going to have a voice conversation now. Let's dive in. Who will be participating in the 2026 Super Bowl, and where is the Super Bowl being held?
So that little ding, that's it, responding back to
But
you.
it didn't go out loud, which is actually really interesting.
Oh, it didn't read back to you?
No, it wasn't reading back to me.
Oh, weird. Maybe try that again.
Who is predicted to win the 2026 Super Bowl?
It's a bit early for any solid predictions on who might win the 2026 Super Bowl. The NFL season hasn't even started yet, so there's a lot that could change.
Are you sure that the season hasn't started yet? Because we know that the Seahawks and the Patriots are playing in the Super Bowl.
Actually, I misspoke earlier. The teams for the 2026 Super Bowl definitely haven't been decided yet.
No.
So it's having some issues. So
I think your problem, Andy, is technically this is the Super Bowl for the 2025 season of the NFL. I think that might be. Try it again. Try 2025.
Who's going to be playing in the upcoming Super Bowl?
The upcoming Super Bowl will feature the New England Patriots going up against the Seattle Seahawks.
Who do the experts predict is going to win the Super Bowl?
So far, the experts seem to be favoring the Seattle Seahawks. Many predictions have the Seahawks winning by at least a touchdown. Some models.
Did the Seahawks play the Carolina Panthers this season? And if so, who won that game?
Yeah, they did play the Panthers this season. The Seahawks won that game pretty comfortably with a final score of 27-10.
Is it safe to say that the Seahawks winning with Sam Darnold as their quarterback could be a win for Carolina, considering he played at Carolina recently?
Yeah, you could definitely look at it that way. Sam Darnold spent some time with Carolina before moving to Seattle, so if he ends up winning a Super Bowl, there's probably a bit of a silver lining for Panthers fans. It's like a good for him moment, even if he's wearing a different jersey now.
That is a very interesting take. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's always fun to see how players' journeys unfold across different teams.
So that's the voice chat feature. And you can see you can go back and forth with it. It's not a single conversation, though. Like once you exit out, you're able to actually go back into the conversation, and you can continue to use the voice chat. But if you start another conversation and you don't use voice chat immediately, you can't pick up with voice chat later on. You have to start off with it and go back into it.
Yeah. And it's really nice to use the voice conversation, the voice chat mode on mobile as well. That's where it showed up first. Now it's in the desktop, but you can use it on mobile on the go. And I did some demos back in my day job about that, showing like, hey, I was asking about like, say that I'm like on the go and I'm going through the airport. I could ask Copilot chat like verbally with like my earbud in, saying, hey, like, what's up with my flight? When's it departing? And is my Marriott Bonvoy points on my hotel reservation? And it's like digging into my email and pulling that stuff out for me. So it's really useful and really helpful. It's funny, yeah, I think that was the situation where it was like 2026 versus 2025 season. I think that's what was going on there.
Possibly. It was also there was an error. It wasn't pulling back some of the content showing it on the screen. We did have a question in the
Okay.
chat I wanted to bring up as we were getting to
Sure.
this. Can you speed up the voice that comes back? That would be interesting. And I absolutely agree. There's no controls for that right now. You're locked into the
It
voice that's
is
there
on mobile though. I
on
think
mobile.
as fast I think you can go 1.25, 1.5, and 2x. And I think you can go as slow as half speed on mobile. But yeah, on web, unfortunately you can't or on the desktop app, there's no speed. Also on mobile, you've got whether you can show captions or not. So if you want to see the stuff typing in or not see it, that there's basically like three controls. There's muting, closed captions, and speed are the three things you can do. At least on mobile. That's where I use it like 80% of the time compared to the desktop.
I'm using it more on the desktop now. I'm kind of tired of sitting. So like I get up and walk around the office and it's nice to
Good idea.
just talk about a topic and feels like I'm actually talking to someone or closer to someone than just having it read back to me with no interaction.
I need to do that. I was a big advocate, like getting really excited about voice mode because I like it so much on Chat GPT. And then I haven't really used it that much. And when it finally arrived, because I was like begging for it for like a year and a half probably. And now it's like, well, no, I'm not really using it. I'm gonna try to do that. So I'm off next week, but the week after, I'm gonna make a concerted effort to try to use voice mode. I'll put it like in its own window on its own monitor, and that way maybe I could just like mute it, and then if I want to chat with it or keep talking, I can just unmute it real quick and be like, hey, what do you think about this or that?
Yeah.
Maybe have like an ongoing conversation. I'll be curious, how long does it time out? Say that you like mute it and you forget about it for a while. Does it like stop listening after a while or what?
Admittedly, I haven't done that. I haven't left it open. Should try that.
Yeah, I'll be curious.
You did say something though that I want to make sure that we touch base on before we get to tip 19. It was actually in tip number 18.
Okay.
So 17 was to start voice chat, use the sound wave icon, and then get started. 18 though emphasizes what you just said. It's conversation. So
Yeah.
use it for iteration. You don't have to give it a one-shot prompt and get it right. You can iterate against it. You can go back and forth. And even like you saw the error live in real time as I was doing that. Start over. Just clear the slate, start over, go into a new conversation. But just use a back and forth with it. And you don't have to wait for it to finish. I was reading ahead. I could see, its response. It was a little slow for me. I would like it to be double speed. So interrupt it and go ahead and pivot into the next topic. As far as I know, you're not going to hurt its feelings. It's not Skynet, or maybe it is, but use it as a conversation and go back and forth with it.
I'm curious about this because with ChatGPT, you can do like, change your inflection or something like that. I wonder if you could kind of like get around the whole speed thing by saying like, talk faster. I wonder if it would do that. That might be something,
Well,
Paul, if you're watching, you might try that and report back in the chat.
Well, actually, let's just try it now.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to step away for a second because I just heard somebody at my door, if you don't mind.
No worries.
All right. Be right back.
Continuing the conversation about the quarterbacks, who's going to be quarterbacking for the New England Patriots?
The starting quarterback for the Patriots in the upcoming Super Bowl.
Can you read that back to me a little bit faster?
Sure. The starting quarterback for the Patriots in the upcoming Super Bowl is Drake May. He's going to be one of the youngest quarterbacks ever to start in a Super Bowl.
Is he one of the May brothers that went to the University of North Carolina? aka the University of National Champions? And how fast can you read that back to me?
Yes, Drake May is one of the May brothers who went to the University of North Carolina. Two of his older brothers, Luke and Bo, played basketball for UNC, and another brother, Cole, played baseball at the University of Florida. The whole family has that strong athletic legacy tied to UNC.
Can you tell me where the May family is from?
The May family is from North Carolina. Drake May and his brothers grew up in Cornelius, North Carolina, and they all stayed pretty close to home when it came to college, at least for those who went.
All right, so it doesn't look like it can be sped up, or you can't kind of nudge it to actually speed up and to go a little bit faster. I tried a couple of different times in that demo to get it to speed up. So we're going to wait on some of the controls. Hopefully what's rolling out in mobile will start to roll out here in the desktop experience, but that's going to be the introduction that we have there to the voice chat feature for Copilot. As far as I know, it does work both web and work. Does work in the web browser, and as I mentioned, I've started to see it show up in a few other additional apps. The new version of Outlook for the web, but it's the most recent iterations of that.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. So
if I didn't
we
get
are...
my dogs would become aware and start barking.
I would be worried if they started opening the door on their own and headed into your room.
Yeah. I actually put some better sound blocking things on my door to my office now, so hopefully they aren't as audible these days. Okay, so did you go through number 19?
We are up to number 19. We just tried to get the voice chat to go faster. It will not. We tried a couple of different times. Nope. It won't.
Yeah. I've tried like, hey, can you like do a different gender voice, or like for me it was like speaking in like a male British accent. So I asked it like, hey, to change its accent, and it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have an accent. It was like totally gaslighting me. So I'm not surprised that it can't speed up and slow down. So the next one here is understanding the suggested prompts. Now, what we're talking about is when you open up a new chat window, a new chat experience, you're going to have these like suggested prompts across the bottom. So I've got this on my screen here, brand new chat. You can see it says, what's the latest from Daryl Webster? Or, you know, what emails should be on my radar? If I click see more, I've got even more things here like, will list the key points of this document or stuff like that. So you might be wondering like, how is it knowing intelligently to like pull in Daryl Webster? Well, he's a close collaborator. Or why am I seeing this file? Well, it's because you open that file frequently in the most recent time. So it's intelligently kind of tuning so that it's not just generic vanilla starter prompts, but if there's a reason to show you something proactively, Copilot will do that, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, Paul, that's our friend Daryl in here. I wonder if it's his guest account or if it's his like real account. Okay, yeah, it's his modern work mentor. So that's like a truly external person to this tenant, and it's like, well, you guys talk to Daryl a lot. Maybe you should get an update on Daryl. But yeah, it's nice, you know, to have some of that intelligence and like, hey, I noticed that you open this a lot, or I noticed that like, you know, there was this meeting that you missed and it was recorded. You know, do you want a recap of it? Do you want a summary? Something like that is pretty handy. Anything else to add on that, Andy?
It's going to change throughout the day. It's going to change recent, relevant. It's powered by the graph and some of the relevancy signals, but it does change throughout the day. So as you go back and revisit Copilot, it's going to be a little bit different as you move through it. So it's not always locked into the same suggested prompts. The other thing to use it for is understand what's on the menu. I'm a broken record, but if you don't know what's on the menu, how do you know what to order? Well, this gives you an idea of what you can order. It gives you some insight into, okay, list key points from, oh, that's a PowerPoint presentation. So we could reference a PowerPoint presentation. Give me 8 creative internal campaign taglines for. That's something that it's actually capable of doing. So
Yeah.
use it throughout the day, but also use it for inspiration to understand what it's capable of doing.
Yeah. And hopefully I'm not stealing the thunder a little bit, but you've only got like 3 right here. See more, that's going to give you all of them. And then at the bottom, if you really want to see the Cheesecake Factory size menu, click on Prompt Gallery. And now you've got this humongous menu of prompts that has all kinds of tasks, all kinds of like jobs to be done, even agents. You've got just like the world's your oyster with this. It's humongous for other prompts. Like if you don't know what you don't know, try like, well, I want to catch up on things in like, I'm a people leader, right? Well, that's not a good example. I want to catch up on things in HR. Well, priorities or, scan for market shifts, things like that. So you can filter down and see what's on the menu. I'm going to call that the Cheesecake Factory menu from now on. It's that giant 45-page menu. Okay, so next one is number 20.
Staying with the suggested prompts.
Yeah, why do these feel so this is kind of
Personal.
what I started with actually, which is like when it includes a file, pause and validate the input, confirm it's the right version, something like that. So again, I mentioned like, well, what are the key topics for this file that we worked on for a webinar that we just looked at? If I
Go ahead and click on
do
it.
that,
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, I want to click on it and validate what the heck is that file. Well, I can click on that. It opens in a new window or a new tab for me, and I can view that and say like, okay, it's this file. Maybe I click on the little cloud icon. It's in that folder. I kind of do a couple things to make sure it's what I'm actually looking for, right? So you can validate it by that referenced item, whether it's context IQ or in a suggested prompt. It is a clickable live link. So if you want to validate your input to make sure that your output is accurate, you can click on that to validate it.
Hey, speaking of validating, while you're still
Yeah.
here, before you
Yeah.
exit out of that PowerPoint, can you go to
PowerPoint?
slide number 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's like
There we go.
really important because that's the Microsoft 365 Community Conference that's happening in April
Mhm.
in Orlando, Florida, and you
Move
and
it
I are
over.
going to be there, and you can validate your ticket by using our promo codes more150 or Huneycutt 150, and you can join us for a full day workshop and exploration through all things Copilot. In fact, we've got a short video on YouTube with our friends from the Microsoft 365 Community Conference where we gave a sneak peek of some of the topics that we're going to be covering at that event. But yeah, validate that ticket and use our promo code.
Yeah. It was like a 30-minute preview of our 6-hour web workshop coming up, where we're going to go like end to end, 6 straight hours of Copilot. It's a good marathon, but yeah, you can save $150.
There's going to be
Right
some
there.
cheeky shenanigans along the way. It's going to be a lot of fun. Live questions and answers. We're going to demo live as we do, and we'll break stuff in real time because it wouldn't be a full day of Copilot with John and Andy if we didn't do those things.
That's right. All right, cool. So that is opening up and
Shameless plug
validating.
aside. Oh,
Yeah, there you go. The next thing on the list was, the promo for that. So again, connect with Andy or connect with me on LinkedIn, and then you'll find that video if you want to watch that 30-minute preview. It was all about Copilot pages and Copilot Notebook to be collaborative with Copilot working together. So, all right, we'll scroll on through, and now we're on number 21. Turn suggested prompts into a reuse system. So what's the point about this one? It's good that it's a starting point, but it's not the end, right? Like you mentioned, Andy, it shows you what's on the menu, but you can expand upon it. Like if I go in here and I select like list the key points, that's not the only thing I can do, right? I can click period and then I could say like give me the key points as I don't know, limericks, or something like that, right? Like, I don't think I spelled the word limerick right, but you get the point. Like, right? Like, say, give it to me as a table, give it to me as this other thing. So, there once was a conference so bright where Copilot should shine its full light. Andy and John would show how it's your time to outgrow, turning
John,
chaos into workflows done right.
this is the perfect time to have Copilot read it out loud to you. So use that read aloud button.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm not sharing my audio. You can't hear that, can you?
No, I can't hear that.
Yeah. Because I'm being a good boy and I'm using my earbud. So I can hear it, but you guys can't. Yeah, and it did it in the most robotic, lame voice that you could imagine. It was not interesting. So you're not missing out. But yeah, that's the idea, is like you can get it, like it shows you what's there, but you can always tweak it. You can always kind of go in here and, give me an FAQ. You can add more details onto it. And then Andy's tip here also shows that once you like add a bunch of stuff to it and you run it, that prompt can be saved as a prompt that you can use later. So I'll have to wait for this thing to come back. And it's probably like, what did you do with your keyboard? So just ignoring that. But if I scroll over it and then I hit the little save, I can, save that as a customized version of that suggested prompt. Now it's in my gallery. I could just bring it up anytime I want by clicking on those sparkle icons to pull from the library, or the gallery rather. Anything else to add on this one, Andy?
Just keep in mind that to your point, you can append to it. We're going to get into some prompt techniques in just a little while, but adding a source doesn't create like a temporary placeholder for like a source. Like it's going to pull like the actual source that you reference as part of that prompt. It's going to lock that in. So adding like a placeholder is not going to show up inside of there. But we've got more tips coming up on suggested prompts and some workflow that you might not have thought about there.
Yeah. And this might be one of those tips coming up. But Paul points out, when you save that prompt, you can also share it with your team as well. That's something that you can definitely do, is you can select a Microsoft team and share it with others, because sharing is caring. That's a really good tip there, Paul. All right. So number 22, capture what worked. When a one-off prompt becomes save worthy. This is kind of that, it's basically rehashing what I already mentioned, because I keep getting ahead of myself, Andy. Which is
you got to just step one step at a time.
Right. Yeah. These are tips. They're bite-sized, and I always want to like give people more context, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can click that to save it, and this is FAQ on M365 Conf, right? I give it a unique name and then save it. Now it is in my prompt gallery. I can view it later on and say, oh, okay, there's the FAQ, and it's got all that gibberish on the end of it. If I go into a new chat, then I click, see more, scroll down to the bottom, click my prompt gallery. That brings it up under your prompts. These are my prompts that I've saved. And then right here, that's what Paul was talking about, is I can share it to a team. Is that a upcoming tip?
I can't remember.
Okay, I'm just going to show it then. So share with the team. If I wanted to share this with like Jolly Roger Java marketing, I could select that and share it. Now I get a new tab up at the top called Team Prompts. Open that up. Now this is shared with everybody in that marketing team. So I've essentially, built a little prompt library for that specific group of people. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so there's that. Number 23, upgrade your saved prompts with context, constraints, and structure. So take a saved prompt and make it a little bit better, like iterate on it. And he's talking about, what should it assume? What's the context? So, recap my meetings in the past 14 days, right? Recap my meetings about project XYZ, right? You're giving it some context, some time scope, something like that. What should it avoid, right? Like, you know, don't give me an executive summary of what the project is. I understand that already, right? Give it some constraints, tell it what not to give you, tell it what's out of scope or something like that. That can help. And then the structure is like, what's the format, right? Give me 3 bullet points. Give me a table with like risks, decisions, and next steps, right? That type of idea. So make your prompt a little bit better. You can always like take your saved prompt. So say that I've got my saved prompt here, and then I do team prompts. I open this up, so it's loaded in there. I'm going to edit my prompt by taking off the gibberish and saying, give me the output as a table. Summarize edits in the last week. What's something I should tell it not to do as a constraint?
No emojis.
Yeah, don't use any emojis, right? So I've done those 3 things to it. I can go in and run that. And then once it's done running, it's a new prompt. So I'm going to go in and I can save it as like, FAQ update enhanced, or V2 or something like that, right? I'm going to save it alongside the other one. If I like it better over some time, I can just delete the old one if I want to. So there you go. There's the FAQs, question and answer format, and then there's the summary stuff, and there's no emojis in there, so that's great. If I want to, I can save that and say better FAQ, save it. And then now when I go back to my prompt gallery, once it's done saving, you'll see that now it says better FAQ versus FAQ on the other one. Okay, I've made it better. I want to get rid of the other one. Click the ... remove from saved, and then it will be gone in a minute when it refreshes and figures that out. I wonder if I have to do it from here because I saved it with a team. Let's kick it out of there. Probably have to. Oh, there it is. It just took a minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like, it unfortunately it doesn't iterate on the exact same prompt. You're saving a new one and then like deleting the old one. So there's not quite like version control built in.
And I was saying a little bit like each save prompt is really a starting point, maybe a building block to another save prompt or a better version of the same prompt, or even a building block to a workflow where you're going to take the next steps. So treat it like that. Like you don't have to worry about getting it, 100% on the first iteration. Save it, use it a couple of times, append the prompt. When you get a good result, save it, go ahead and archive or get rid of the old one and keep using that. But you're not locked in. They're not permanently etched in stone in the saved prompts library. Iterate against them. But I do encourage you to think about it from a workflow standpoint. Like, how can I use this in the flow of work? Is this something that I'm going to do a couple of times? All right, I'm done it a couple of times. Let's make the output a little better and just use each day to kind of evaluate and improve, use that prompt library as your partner, as your collaborator, and stop using, we've talked about ways to save prompts in the past, and there are pros and cons from a lot of things. Lists are good, but you got to go and seek them out. Loop is good, but you got to go and seek it out. Prompt Buddy is good, but you got to go and seek it out. This shows up kind of in flight with the
pretty native,
with the prompt editor, and it does travel with you now as the Copilot chat experience is kind of homogenized across all the different apps and services. Prompt gallery travels with you now, and so you get that scratch pad of starter prompts to go along with you. My only feedback for our friends in Redmond is give me the ability to tag some of these myself so that I can take advantage of those filters on the top, and I can have a large prompt gallery and quickly get to the prompts that I want by using some filters and some tags.
That would be nice. Like a little bit more customization in like the findability, discoverability would be nice.
Yeah.
The next one here, I'm not going to rehash it, but like name your prompts, right? You saw me save it as like better FAQ generator or something like that. This is kind of a nice little bonus though. Andy says, hey, you give yourself a structure. This is kind of, it maybe addresses that discoverability or findability a little bit for what are you doing? You're drafting an FAQ, you're drafting a weekly status update. Like, what is the artifact, right? Like it's a table, or it's an FAQ, or it's a briefing or something like that. And then what's the cadence? Weekly, right? At the end of the week recap, the start of the week prep session, and then what's the audience? For XYZ project, for my manager one-on-one session I have coming up, whatever it is. So verb, what you're messing with or what's going to come out of it, how often or why you're doing it, when you're doing it, and who you're doing it for. Those are good pieces that you can add to make a better name.
So I have one piece of constructive criticism on that. You want to bring my screen back up?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll get you.
And
there you go.
And we disappeared from it somehow. But anyways.
Oh, yeah.
35 characters.
Let's see. Let me drag and drop. There you are.
All right. So we're limited to 35 characters in there. So you got to keep the name within 35 characters. So if you're struggling with that, if you're struggling with naming it within 35 characters, well, you've got somebody that can actually help you with that, and it's Copilot. So you could, take the prompt. I'm going to copy that to the clipboard. I'm going to head into just a new web conversation. Can you give me a name for this prompt of fewer than 35 characters, but has a verb, topic, and cadence?
Mm-hmm.
Let Copilot do the work for you. Let it figure out what the name for the prompt could be, or give you some suggestions for it.
It's a good idea. It's pretty meta.
I can't talk about this conversation.
Well,
we're gonna try one more time.
He doesn't want to be introspective, right?
All right. I can't even send that to Microsoft. That is really disappointing. We're going to try one more time. I have the following prompt and need a name for it. There we go. So just a little bit more context, but now it's giving me a plethora of different ideas. So let Copilot work with you, especially if you're struggling with like that 35 character limit and you want to keep it unique. And even better yet, if you were to just grab some of these and maybe throw them into a loop page or a Copilot page. So I can go ahead and clean this up a little bit. This is a bonus tip, folks. This is not included. But maybe we say like short prompt names. Now I've got this as a document. I've saved it. And the next time I need to go and do something like this, the next time I need to like run this prompt, I would be able to potentially say add work content, maybe search for that file once it has a chance to index and actually show up. And then I could reference that and say, and make it unique, or make it fall in existing categories, or look at what we already have and, add to like the conversation. I can reference that existing dictionary that I'm creating of some of these names in my prompt gallery and use like a Copilot page to kind of organize it a little bit, but let Copilot do some of that work for you. And maybe I'll turn that into a February tip.
I like that. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay. So that is naming our prompts. There we go. Let's see here. So should I put in should I add a comment on here that says like you can only do 35 characters? This tip is useless.
I think you could add that comment to that tip, or anybody who is
That's what I was
participating.
gonna say.
Yeah,
Let me
live.
go add
You know, if you
a
want to go
pithy
ahead and
comment.
drop that nugget in there and create some little interaction signal for the LinkedIn algorithm, that'd be cool.
FYI, you can only have 35 characters in your saved prompt names. It's surprising that you didn't know that already. I'm gonna add like a really hateful comment. Everybody's gonna be like, what the crap, dude?
John's really direct.
Assertive. All right, cool. Is it, you know, like having some angst or some drama that might help the algorithm, you know, push it up for you, make it more available to people.
Let the hate flow through you.
Okay, number 25. Build a prompt bundle for a recurring scenario. So what's this one on?
So this is that workflow I was telling you about just a minute ago.
Yeah, thinking about the steps.
You iterate on a prompt a couple of times, but a prompt is only as good as the process that it's a part of. Very rarely do we prompt and something completely in a bubble. It's usually part of a process or a sequence of events that we're doing. So if you think about it, you can create a prompt for different parts of that sequence. So this part's going to be where I do the ideation. This part's going to be where I maybe reference, the existing dictionary and create a unique name for this thing. This prompt's going to be where I put it together and start creating the next step. This one became, and one of the comments on this one actually kind of highlighted the concept that I'm getting here. This is useful for those people that don't have the full ability to work with agents. Maybe their organization is like turned off agents. This allows us to kind of utilize Copilot prompts as a kind of a sequencing thing, or saved prompts as like a sequencing thing. So I do this one first, this one second, this one third. There's nothing stopping you from naming it and putting like 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the beginning of it. And so, okay, I prompt this. Now this is the outcome. Here's the second prompt. Here's the outcome. Here's the third prompt. Here's the outcome. And either iterate in the same conversation or maybe use a Copilot page to pass the information back and forth. But by using it as part of a workflow, you can get creative, even if like maybe you don't have access to agents, and you can use that bundle for that process that you're looking at.
Yeah, and as Michael said, like that's kind of a point that you hit on a little bit earlier, right? Is it sure would be nice if like you could save that as a bundle under like a task, where you could say all of these have to do with a task called weekly prep, weekly meeting, something like that. I have one idea too that maybe we could improve on that a little bit, which is what if I went into my chat and I said like, I want to do a weekly meeting prep session. Please run these steps in order, one at a time, not all at once. I want you to start with the first one. Give me the response standalone. And wait until I tell you to go to the next step in the list. Right? What if I did that and then I don't know, like had that, maybe I could have it like I'm almost making a program, if you will, where it's like, hey, do this, and then like, let me understand it, and then let me say like, go to number 2, or give me the agenda or whatever. Yeah. Then maybe you could save that as one prompt, but it's kind of got, it's almost like a choose your own adventure, or, maybe you could have it be like a textual menu where it says, hey, I wanted to do weekly prep. I want 4 different components. List them out as a menu and let me pick which one I want.
Mhm.
Right. And then maybe you're kind of, it's almost like you're building an agent, but not really, you
Yeah.
know?
No,
I wonder if
it's
that would
very
be an
similar.
interesting idea.
You're
Yeah.
creating instructions, a series of instructions for it to step through. I do this all the time. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes though, when you do it as a series of instructions, you have to see it through to the end, like each step along the way. And like, what if I get
Mhm.
to like, I just want to do prep agenda and draft follow up, and I don't need to do the notes to actions. With it as a sequence like this, I'm kind of locked into that step before I can get to the last part of it. If I do it as
Yeah.
individual prompts, it gives me some flexibility. But
Mhm.
really, we're getting to the same destination, and I think both ideas are really really good. Different prompting techniques to get us where we
Yeah.
need to go.
Yeah. So there's an idea, maybe like kind of bundle it all together and do a multi-step. And here's how it handled it. Step 1, here's the stuff. Let me know when you're ready for step 2. So now I would say, like, let's proceed. Or like, okay, the agenda, right? And I would go on to the next one and say, okay, let's do step 3 next. And we
Yeah.
go through that. So just an idea. I think that's an interesting concept. Okay, so next one here, if I know what I'm doing, there we go. Number 26, your inputs first pattern. Make your saved prompts resilient. So this one's about like, not hard coding some things in there, but leaving it open a little bit to like, I want to do fill in the blank or Mad Lib style prompting, right? Hey, here's the instructions, or here's the prompt with blanks. I'm going to give you the audience, the time frame, the sources, the whatever. That's almost like having variables, right? I've done this before with my own prompt engineering where I've kind of put that stuff at the top, like client equals this, industry equals that, and I kind of put that at the top, and then I have at the bottom, I'll put like square brackets with like the client, the industry. And then that way at the top, I can basically fill in the Mad Lib
You're creating
blanks.
placeholders
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
templating. Yes. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I mean by this, like an input first pattern. You're making save prompts into templates. You're filling in
Mhm.
some of the details, but giving yourself the placeholder. And I've got a couple of like my daily recap prompt is pretty much that. I have a placeholder in it based off of the day of the week and the month, day, year, and then it references that
Mhm.
throughout the prompt for like certain parts of where it brings information together. And it's the same thing. You can leave yourself cues as to the details that you need to fill in the save prompt, but most of it's there, and you don't have to worry about typing a lot of it out. You just hit a couple of forward slashes and fill in a couple of details, and you're off and running.
Yeah. And here's like kind of what he has in the example. I just kind of
Yeah.
took out the word example. It's like you got 3 things. You got inputs, you got a little bit of steering, the instructions, and then you got the request or the prompt. Um, yeah, that's a really, really smart way to do it, because then you can say, you could put like equal signs in there if you wanted to, and know that like when you run this prompt from the prompt gallery, you're going to need to fill out those blanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
Equal
idea.
signs, colons, dashes,
Yeah,
placeholders, square
whatever. It's natural language.
brackets.
It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
certain way of doing it. I like one tip I like to do, because we can't do like bold or underlines. We can't do like markdown. Is I'll put those kind of like labels or headers in all caps. That kind of helps me read the prompt a little bit. So that's a little nugget that I would add to it. Okay, we want to move on to the next one.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, number 27, standardize your outputs, one format per artifact. So if the output format changes every time, you can't reuse it. Saved prompts compound when the artifact is predictable. Treat the format as part of the prompt, not just a preference. So what's your example here? Your example is the weekly status update. You say, you're really giving it those constraints. Use this structure every single time. And not only here are my headers, but under each of those header sections, I want 3 bullets. I want 5 bullets. I want, an executive summary that's no more than 2 sentences long, something like that. So you're baking it in as like pretty structured guardrails, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And it's being very prescriptive to return exactly this structure, right? If something is missing, just skip it or write the word missing or ask me about it or something like that, right?
Yep.
And again, here's your formatting, which here's another pro tip to add on. See this little arrows right here? If you start getting your prompts bigger and bigger, try expanding that box. This is something that came out like maybe 2 months ago, and
Yeah.
it has been a wonderful thing. So you
I
can
was
see
in the
here in
middle
Andy's
of a
screenshot.
demo when that came out, and I gave
Did
like
you?
a hallelujah. I geeked out
Yeah.
over that for like a couple of
You
minutes, and
like
some people in
squealed.
the room were like, "Man, he's having a moment." I was really excited.
He's way too invested. Yeah. But it's
It
so
reminded
nice.
me of
Like,
Copilot notebooks from like the Bing
yeah.
chat notebooks from like 2 years ago, when you could iterate
Oh,
against the
yeah. I
prompt
remember
and you could
that.
expand. I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And then it took a while
Yeah.
for that to show back up.
Seeing a full thing and not just like 5 lines at a time, it really lets you see what the flow is. Because
Yes.
I'm a pretty visual guy. I want to see like all caps. I want to see bolds. Formatting matters to me, and having things spread out, it reduces my cognitive load.
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, really nice. Okay. And then that was our announcement for this session, which I'm super bummed out, man. I don't know what happened where we're not streaming to LinkedIn for some reason. Like we put it in, but it didn't go to LinkedIn and YouTube. So we're gonna have to
It,
troubleshoot our restream.
Yeah, we'll do that offline. I've been looking at it
Yeah.
as we've been going through the session today, like hoping it'll reboot. It says for some reason it can't connect to
Yeah.
LinkedIn, even though all
There
of
was like
the
40 something people that signed up and now
yeah.
they didn't get notified. So we'll have to post this later on, for the folks via LinkedIn as a YouTube. Hey, sorry we missed you. You can watch it here. Number 28, version your save prompts without breaking what works. I guess this is a positive spin, right? That you can't really edit and have a version control within your saved prompts. Instead, you could put V2 or like what I put, a better FAQ maker. Um, Here's my positive spin. It allows you to do A/B testing, right? You can do the new prompt, but you don't mess up your old prompt. If you can always go back. So this is the idea: is like run your prompt or click your prompt to get it in the box, make your tweaks, make your edits, save it as a new prompt with a new name. I have seen people like in my work life put V2 or put the word draft or whatever into the thing. I've seen mostly like V2, V3 type of stuff in the real world. I like this idea here too. Change one thing at a time. This is
Yes.
really big for me as I kind of like show people or help people with like live streaming for the first time. I say like don't try to fix like 4 things at the same time. Don't change your lighting and your camera and your microphone. Change just your microphone. Like have that get a little bit better. Then change your lighting. Then like do one thing at a time so that if it doesn't work, you can go back. Don't do like 4 things, then wonder like why you had a bad live stream. So yeah, change like one thing, your audience or your time frame. I want to go from like 7 days to 14 days. See if that's more helpful for me.
Iterate with purpose. Changing one thing at a time allows you to control that one variable at a time to see what the output's going to look like, and then you can tweak the next thing. But if you tweak too many things, you're going to get completely different results than what you started with. So iterating that one thing at a time allows you to really dial it in before you commit to making the next change.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great tip. Number 29, avoid prompt sprawl. So, as you're building these versions, be careful that like if you're on version 8 that you don't have version 765432. Because it's going to just make this list huge, right? like the screenshot's not so bad right now because there's only like a couple things. But if you've got like 4 tasks and they're broken into like 5 different process steps on each one, that's gonna, it's gonna grow exponentially, and you're gonna have to scroll through. As Michael put in that one chat, that comment, it would be nice if we could like, tag these things and make it more filterable. Um, in the meantime, though, you're gonna want to regularly get rid of things, right? The
Mhm.
project is over. You don't need like the 3 prompts for like doing recaps or executive summaries or whatever for that project. You can remove them. I do wish that there was an archive, right? So that I could like maybe get rid of them or put them in a folder for like this project underscore old or something like that. Um, we'll see. Hopefully, Microsoft's going to invest a little bit more in the prompt gallery. But
We've given some constructive feedback here today. Well,
Yeah,
hope our friends in Redmond are listening.
yeah. So hey, keep these things if they're used. Get rid of stuff if you haven't used it in like 2 or 3 months. This kind of is that concept I brought up about. You got 3 steps. Maybe try like combining them into one step with a menu, right? So it's a choose your own adventure kind of text based PC game. Like instead of 3, you smash it into 1, something like that.
Phil's got a great comment on that.
What's that?
My prompt final underscore
Final, yeah.
final draft underscore really final underscore V32. I think you forgot
Yeah.
the final at the end of that one, Phil.
Yep. I like this takeaway you have. Like prompt gallery is not a library; it's a library. It's a tool belt, not an idea library. I liked what you did earlier too about like using Copilot to ideate about Copilot. Hey, I want to do this prompt. Can you help me out? And like you added it to a page. Maybe what you do is you make a Copilot page or a loop page that is like my prompt ideas, right? Keep things there, but like you're kind of promoting the idea to production. When you actually make a prompt out of it, you actually save it to the prompt gallery. It's like, okay, now I've changed you from an idea to a tool. I'm going to put you in the toolbox. I like that analogy of like, idea library versus a tool belt. That brings us to the last one here. Use the 4-part prompt framework. So goal, context, expectations, and source. GCES. There's lots of different acronyms for this. I know like Google has their own framework that also is like just a couple words, so it's an acronym. But when you're thinking about your prompt engineering, try to break down the prompt into what do I want, why do I want it, how do I want it, and where should it get the information, right? Try to answer those questions with a goal, context, expectations, and source. Anything to add to that one? I do want to show
I've
this
got more
comes
coming
from
on
Microsoft.
that particular topic, the
Yeah.
prompting and some prompt techniques. And this is just kind of spoiler. The next batch of tips that I'm currently working on actually deal with, let's take goal, context, source, and expectations, and let's tie it to some of what we discussed here today. Let's tie it to context IQ. So source, how do we tie that to context IQ? How do we take goal, context, source, expectation, and a saved prompt, and then tie in context IQ? So it's going to get layered, like for the next few batches of tips, where it starts combining some of those different elements into the conversation. And that's really, it's going to be going into some prompt techniques as well. Some things that aren't even covered here, like John and I did a 1-shot, 2-shot prompt episode. Man, it was like 2 years ago now that we did that.
I know, dude. Copilot's been out for a while now. It still feels new.
It really does. But I'm going to have some prompt techniques that really kind of expand off of this. But the next batch is really just going to go into, let's tie this into some of what we talked about today, and let's look at what the next steps are going to be.
I think it's a good thing to revisit. I'm glad that you're going to kind of do a selection of like, hey, let's let's noodle on this topic for a while about prompt engineering, because I think a lot of people kind of abandoned writing good prompts in favor of shoving everything into agents, because agents kind of became the hype thing. But it builds on a foundation of good prompts. Knowing how to write good prompts helps you write good instructions for your agent,
Yes.
right? So I think it's a good skill to keep people up and keep them going with, like, not everything needs to be an agent. Sometimes you can get it done with a good prompt. But this is also from Microsoft. I know you linked to something. Did you link to this page in
Not on
your?
that comment. There was a few
Okay.
before.
Yeah, I thought there was one where we had that, but this is, I'm gonna put this in the chat here. This is a link to this page. Those ingredients that Andy talked about, they're right here. And I think this is really helpful because it basically has like the idea of a prompt with color coded what those
Yeah.
things are. So think about the ingredients, and if you could almost highlight the sections of your prompt and assign them to one of the 4 items, you know that you've got a good prompt on your hands. So cool.
So-
That takes us up to the current. Anything else to add on that? It's
Another
like
one.
the only time we've ever ended on time.
Yeah, got another one coming tomorrow. Stay tuned. Got a working on the batch for February. I'd love to hear what you think of some of these prompts. Go to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Tell me in the comments. Let me know.
Right here. Scan this QR code. That takes you to Andy's LinkedIn so that you can connect with him, and then you'll get these things. I wonder, at some point, I've never messed with like newsletters and stuff. I wonder if it'd be a good idea to turn your thing into a newsletter so people could subscribe to it.
There's
Maybe
an idea.
maybe that's an idea. Because it'd be like, hey, deliver these to me.
Yeah.
Put them on your Substack, Patreon, whatever.
And if
but
you have
scan this.
Yeah, if anybody who's watching has any tips or tricks and you want to share, let us know. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, let us know in the comments. When we get this posted on LinkedIn, sorry, we had a technical issue, and put it in the comments on LinkedIn. But I am going to throw the shameless plug out there one more time. You may have heard that John and I are headed to Orlando for the Microsoft 365 Community Conference coming up in April. We've got a promo code out there. Use it. But hope to see you there. We're looking forward to that event. It's going to be a ton of fun. We are deep in prep work for that now. Really looking forward to participating again this year. Check out the 30-minute intro, amuse-bouche that we did on kind of going from Copilot chat to pages to notebooks, putting things into the flow of work. As you know, having sat here with us for the last couple of hours or on this journey, which now John is very quickly approaching 5 years. We go more into just the how. We like to explore the why and the when and the what. That workshop's really going to dive into that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got some cool things we're planning on for that.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I like this rapid cadence, of like, let's talk about this and then that, and then kind of build on it. For me, it was like a little bit of a surprise because I've been reading them, but I didn't know like which ones in which order. I haven't memorized all 30. So it was a fun challenge to be like, did we already talk about this? Or this was good. All right. Well, with that being said, we will see you guys near the end of February. And let us know if you got any other ideas. I think I'd like to hopefully the next one be about Claude and talk about some Anthropic inside of Copilot goodness. But lots of other ideas as we get into 2026. It'll be a good time. All right, everybody. Hope you have a good weekend and happy February coming in.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.